Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Seeking Sustainability in Japan, but a special sub-series that I am starting with my cohort partner in Tokyo, Tove Kinooka today. So I'm JJWalsh based in Hiroshima. I'm a sustainability-focused consultant for travel business and small and medium-sized businesses here. Tove, you want to introduce yourself before we start?
Yep, brilliant. Thank you, JJ. So good morning, everybody. And as JJ said, my name's Tove Kinooka. I'm based here in sunny Yokohama. It's a beautiful day just outside Tokyo. And so I'm co-director and co-founder of Global Perspectives, which is a small sustainability integration consultancy. So that means we work with companies to help them integrate sustainability strategy and ideas into their organizational culture. So we work mainly with the big ones, big companies, sometimes SMEs as well, and other types of organizations.
Awesome. And the reason we are starting this weekly chat is because Tove and I have a very exciting new idea that we're doing a big event in March next year together. Very excited about this. High energy, save the date. We are trying to get our speakers in order. We've got ideas for panel discussions, workshops, the whole day of activities. It's a national holiday in Japan, March 21st. It's a Monday. It's hard to read on the event. We realized, right, Tove? It is March 21st, 2022, Women in CleanTech and Sustainability event. So please mark it on your calendars. There'll be lots more details coming soon. We will have an online component, so you can join wherever you are, and in person in Hiroshima, where I am, and in person with Tove there in Tokyo. So
yeah,
lots of great things coming up for that. So for building up to that event and getting the information out, we thought we'd try these 30-minute, we're going to try to stick to 30 minutes, 30-minute sessions where we talk about things that have kind of been on our radar as we're both looking for sustainability in the news and events. So Tove, you want to start? What's been on your radar?
Well, wow, so many things, right? Because we've just finished COP26 in Glasgow. So sustainability has been even more in the news than usual, which is fantastic from my point of view. So, a lot of things coming out of that. One thing I'm really excited about that's kind of connected to that is the British Chamber of Commerce, BCCJ in Japan, BCCJ, British Chamber of Commerce in Japan, is doing a series on sort of COP26. We've been doing a series of virtual fireside chats with experts in different areas of sustainability. And in early December, we're going to do a panel discussion to kind of analyze what's come out of COP. What does this mean for business? But one of these virtual fireside chats is coming up next Tuesday. So I'm going to be talking to Professor Wayne Visser, who is from the Cambridge Institute of Sustainability Leadership, where I studied a few years back, and I had the great fortune to have him as my tutor there. And he's also professor at Antwerp School of Business and author of about 40 books. He's a busy guy. But I'm really looking forward to talking to him because I think so much of what we've been hearing during and post-COP has been quite pessimistic, right? It's like, oh, it didn't achieve what we wanted it to, and quite a lot of negativity around. But Professor Visser is very much, he describes himself as a possibilist, which I think is a wonderful word. So he's not a sort of an optimist in the sense that, he just hopes something will happen, but he doesn't really have any basis for that. He's really looking at the science and saying, well, yes, there's a lot of, massive issues that we have to solve, but we are capable as a species. We have the brain power, we have the technology. And here's what we can do with that. So I've been reading his new book, which is coming out in February. I'm lucky enough to have an advanced copy, and I'll be doing a review of that soon. But I just really like the positive sort of perspective that he brings to the sustainability conversation. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to him on that.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I find too, like when I prepare for some of the talks that I do with guests, if they've written books or papers or articles, you just have that extra like deep understanding of what they do. And then it's really hard for them to say everything in summary. But if you're interviewing them or you're helping them along with things that you as the reader found really poignant to point out, I think that helps them a lot too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think many people, perhaps outside the sustainability field of work, might not necessarily pick up on a book like that and say, oh, well, it's not really in my area of interest. It doesn't relate to me directly, and would just overlook it. But like you say, if we've got a chance to talk about it and say, well, he's really looking at solutions for a better future. He calls it thriving, rather than just surviving. Yes, we want to survive as a species, but just surviving is not a very attractive proposition. So he talks about thriving and how we can move to that as individuals as well as organizations and society. So I think, it really is relevant to everyone, but it might not always be apparent, like you say.
Yeah. One thing that's been on my radar. So every third Sunday, I get out and do a volunteer cleanup along the rivers or beaches.
Brilliant.
In Hiroshima. And so it always, even though I feel like I'm focused on sustainability in my life and work all the time, it is a great reminder of what actually gets into our waterways, and basically everything. Yeah. Everything you could imagine gets into the waterway. And then it inspired me to write this article on Medium, kind of bringing together all these ideas of the waste management in Japan.
Right.
And how recently in tourism, in the last few years, we've noticed a lot of the trash cans have disappeared. Have you noticed that?
Definitely. Right. It's getting harder to find where do you put your rubbish, your trash.
Right? Yeah. And this is something that when I meet with tourists, they always mention, like, Japan is super clean. I love it. Japan is amazing. But where are the trash cans? And one of the quotes I have in the book is in the article is from a German tourist who was actually really angry about it and saying, really? I buy things from Japanese vendors. I enjoy eating them or using them, but I don't want all the plastic packaging they're giving me. And then there's nowhere to throw it away. I'm supposed to take it home or keep it with me all day. And he was so obviously frustrated. So then I talk in the article about the branding of it. And if you have someone taking back the garbage that you just gave them, by selling them something, that's actually really good branding for you. And one of the stories I give in the beginning is a really frustrating story when we did a cycle tour and we went into like a shopping center and we bought loads of food from all the food vendors. And then afterwards, they're like, no, pointing to the sign, you have to take it home with you.
Wow.
And you just can't when you're on a bicycle. And I was almost in tears. Like I wanted to do the right thing. Yeah. And then talking about what are the waste management hurdles in Japan, talking about Plastic Love, this great documentary. I interviewed the documentary filmmakers. It's coming out next year, where they interview people from around Japan who are trying to make a difference in more sustainable waste management. I talked to Eric Kawabata from
he's brilliant
Loop
from
and TerraCycle, right? And it was really encouraging to talk to him and how the businesses that he's working with are actually really ready for this change. Like they've been thinking about it. They're ready to start using reusables or biodegradables or compostables, right?
Yeah.
And then also mentioning about like Zero Waste Town of Kamikatsu, the Zero Waste Hotel, how they have mandatory recycling and composting. I also visited San Francisco's Recology Recycling Center. And people don't think of doing that on vacation, but it was absolutely fascinating. I loved it. And I learned so much from him. And they do mandatory composting for San Francisco. And this is definitely something we can do in Japan, which would reduce all of our waste burden by 30% immediately, is what they found. So there's a lot of, links to other work I've done and articles and ideas here.
I think it's brilliant. And it's interesting you mentioned that, when you were talking to Eric Kawabata, he was saying that companies are ready for this now. And I think one of the things Dr. Visser talks about in his book is convergence, and how things are gathering speed now. And you've got this convergence of a shift in society, a shift in regulations from the government side. You've got the worsening climate situation that's much more, people understand the urgency better now. And it's this convergence of things which is making the movement gather speed, I think. So this really feels like the time is right to be really going full speed ahead on this. And it was interesting, you said when we spoke before we went live that you look back at a chat we did about a year or so ago, right? And how companies at the beginning of the pandemic were saying, well, we just need to focus on surviving. We can't really worry too much about our, sustainability agenda right now. We've just got to stay afloat. But that feels like it's really shifted in the last year.
I think so. And that idea, I did a talk to travel people in the travel industry in the Setouchi area down here in Hiroshima area. And one of the things I said, which I truly believe, I don't know about you, Tove, but if you don't add sustainability as part of your business mindset, it's actually damaging now, right?
Absolutely,
and if you add these it might seem difficult now, but if you add it, it's going to help you in the future. And if you don't add it, it's dangerous. I really think that. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because before, I think there was a lot of focus or a lot of talk in companies about the cost of taking action, right? It's obviously you have to invest in new systems, in new processes, in changing your business model and developing your people and stuff like that. So there's a lot of costs up front, which I think a lot of companies were hesitant at first to really commit to. But now it's more the cost of inaction. It's like you can't not do this because your business will not survive. People will not buy your products. People will not join your company. So I think that realization is really beginning to happen.
Yeah, definitely. Reminds me of this article, which I also wanted to mention from the Japan Times. They have this great news section, Sustainable Japan, and they did a great interview with Trista Bridges about her Read the Air consultancy. And one of the things that she mentioned, which Philip Sugai, who I talked to from Doshisha University the other day, also said, is there is a feeling in Japan that companies are already deeply connected to society in Japan. And so there is not an urgency that we need to change. Right. Because everybody assumes the company is already doing good for the planet and for society. And that's what she mentions in this article. Really interesting.
Yeah. And I think, yes, well, Trista and her business partner, Donald Eubank, have done a lot of research on this. And they wrote a book that came out last year, I believe, on leading sustainably. And they talk about some really interesting aspects of particularly Japanese companies and the culture within them. And like you say, there's a lot of good foundations there, if you like. Culturally, there is a deep connection to society, which is really important for sustainability work. However, it does on the flip side, lead to complacency. Well, like you say, we're already doing it. We don't need to do much more, and not sort of looking beyond that to see how it needs to be perhaps updated or revised. So it's definitely a positive and a negative.
Yeah. She was also talking about ESGs and the need for environment, society, government to have that focus on governance is kind of a new thing more businesses are starting to think about in Japan. And this links back to one of the podcasts I was listening to recently by the Ocean Cleanup. Do you know that organization?
Yes.
They're raising money. They got a lot of sponsorship from big companies as well, like Coca-Cola, who has been adding to the plastic pollution problem. But now they're trying to own it and take back some of the responsibility, which is great. But one of the interviews recently on their podcast was with the woman who is in charge of, okay, we're collecting all of this plastic garbage from the Pacific garbage patch. Now what?
Right.
Like, now what do we do with it? How do we take it and create something reusable, like a product, or how do we dispose of it in an ethical way where it won't get back here? Right? Like the politics of taking trash, which is from so many different countries, all mixed together, and then taking it from one country, transporting it to another country for manufacturing, like all the politics of it is something I don't think anybody is even considering. And this is the absolute last stage of our pollution problem. It reminds me that we need to turn off the tap. We need to stop putting it in there, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I think there is a tendency very often to look at kind of one part of a problem and really focus on that. We've heard so much about ocean plastic over the last few years, and there've been some brilliant documentaries and things. There are some amazing organizations like, the Ocean Cleanup or Maimizu, here in Japan, doing wonderful stuff on that. But it's all interconnected, right? It's such, you can't just look at that part of the problem and solve that, because, like you say, unless we stop the tide of it coming in, then, really we're not going to be solving it. We're just temporarily putting a Band-Aid on.
But another thing I talk about in the article, which I see firsthand, it's making a difference that Japan now has a regulation that you cannot have free bags, free plastic bags in shop. And immediately we started seeing less plastic bags in cleanups. So we see that it's working, right?
Works.
And so the role of governance, the role of regulation as a big part of the problem to fix it, right? And Japan's waterways has a higher concentration of microplastics, and most people are eating fish. This is a health problem as well as an environmental problem.
Absolutely.
We don't know what plastic's going to do to our body, but we know it's already in there, right? So let's try to sort it out.
Different aspects of it, and it's still so new, right? It's still evolving. The science is evolving. The data is coming in thick and fast, and we're learning so much that we didn't know 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or whatever. And it takes time to get our heads around all of that, I think, and to then start looking at, okay, well, once we understand what it means, or we begin to, then how do we go about changing this juggernaut of societal behavior, and organizations' behavior, and business models, and regulations and things. You can't change these overnight. It takes time.
Well, I think that's why a lot of the work that you do, like you wrote this article about mind shift and sustainability in a cultural audit. Can you talk about that? Because that's training the people in the organization. How do you move forward? That's such a big part of what you do, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's really our main focus as a business, because it came about because the work we were doing on organizational change, and that was all around developing leadership capability, and changing the organizational culture to then put that into a sustainability context, we realized that all the talk was on processes, which are incredibly important. What is your governance? What are you doing on environment and on social side of things? What are your policies? What are your processes? Very, very important. But unless your people understand what your company is trying to do, why they're trying to do it, how it connects to them and the job that they do every day, you're not going to get the company really shifting and achieving the goals that it's setting. So that's why the work we do, we really focus on people, getting them to connect the dots and see, okay, well, if our company has this sustainability ambition and strategy, how does that impact me? And if I'm a leader, how does that impact the decisions I make and how I work with my team? And we realized in the consulting work that we do that so many companies don't know what their, level of awareness and understanding within the company is. The people at the top setting the strategy might have a good understanding, but then when you start to go down, through the layers and you talk to people in different functions further away from the creation of that strategy, there's often very little understanding or engagement. And so things don't move, right? So we created the culture audit, the sustainability culture audit, for companies to be able to measure that. So we can go in there and say, okay, let's see where you're at. Let's find out what your people know or don't know. Do they care or not? What do they understand about, what your company's trying to do, and how do they feel about that? And do they feel like they can, be supported? And if not, let's look at what we can do about that. So yeah, that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when I was listening to our talk from last year, and one of the things that we talked about is how when you visit businesses who have a sustainability focus as part of their brand, and then if you talk to their staff and the staff don't know, how immediately as a consumer, you don't trust them. And
exactly.
You think it's all just lip service, right?
Yeah.
But if you talk to their staff and all the staff know it, they have embedded sustainability in their business culture, and I suspect embedded it into their private life as well. That is a business that I want to pay, right? That's my loyal company right there, right?
It's like it's good in every sense of the word for the business. Yes, it's better in terms of they're more likely to achieve their sustainability goals, but it makes them more, credible, I think, more authentic. They're actually doing what they're saying, and people in the company believe it and are not just sort of going through the motions.
Definitely. And this brings me to another article that I saw on the Japan Times, the main Japan Times, talking about Shochu. How do you feel about Shochu?
Wow, I haven't drunk that in a little while, but
yeah. So in the Talkshow series, I did talk to a Shochu expert, Stephen Lyman, and Shochu is famous in Kyushu. So anybody who visits or lives in Kyushu knows Shochu. Shochu is so interesting because it's domestically consumed. Shochu is something that is really not exported.
Right.
So it's a real local product used and loved by locals, and it is connected to so many other businesses, farming, local trades, local people. So it has a really wide-reaching sustainability net, I think. And this was such a great article because it talks about how this one distillery in Miyazaki is using natural farming, so less pesticides, treating wastewater before it goes back to nature, using potatoes with the peel and even a little bit of dirt on, it's just really getting back to making a good product that really doesn't need to sacrifice the environment or the local people. And so many great takeaways here. I love that article.
Fantastic. No, I haven't seen that one, but I will go and look for it afterwards. It sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good one. And one of the other things I love, the in the article, the owner says, I think more consumers are mindful of the environmental and sustainable practices of business.
Yeah.
And this is in Kyushu. This is in Miyazaki,
Brilliant.
someone saying that. And it just gives me hope, right?
Yes.
Because how many times do I talk about sustainability and people are like, yeah, but it's too hard, or it's too expensive, or we just can't think about that now, right?
Right.
And you must get that as well. So
all the time. So it's really encouraging to hear, different parts of the country, not just in the, the big cities where perhaps it's more talked about. It's really great to hear that awareness is spreading further.
Yeah, definitely. Another shout out to tomorrow's talk. I'm talking with Leslie Mabon. He was at COP26, and he'll be talking kind of with a Japan focus on what things in terms of energy transition that he really sees that Japan needs to do. So it'd be interesting to talk to someone who was at the COP conference recently.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very interested to hear what his experience was there.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting. Any other things? We've got about 5 more minutes. We're going to keep it to 30 minutes, I think, today. Is awesome.
Brilliant. Good start.
Anything else on your radar?
I think just sort of maybe going back to the event we're hoping to do in March, the interconnection between sort of different aspects, different SDGs, if you like. So we're focusing in the event on women working in the sustainability field. And again, sort of going back to the talk I'm doing on Tuesday next week with Professor Visser, looking at things at an ecosystem level is something that we really focus on in our work. It's something that he focuses on very strongly in his work and in the writing as well. And I think, the intersection, if you like, of gender equality, gender issues and sustainability is a really important one, a really exciting one. So I'm really looking forward to taking that forward into the event and seeing what we can do with that.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about Save the Date, but we're also looking for sponsors. We're looking for people who, if you have heard a great female speaker and you want to suggest her, please get in touch with us. You can find me on inboundambassador.com. Tove, I think our links, both of our links are below this.
Yep, on LinkedIn or on the company.
Globalperspectives.com, is it?
.biz.
.biz, right.
Yep.
And we're both on LinkedIn, where this is streaming right now. We're both on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Where's your other social media platform that you like?
For me, it's just LinkedIn and Facebook. So,
okay, great. But yeah, we really want to create, like, one of the questions we were both talking about is the why. Why have this big event? Why have a female-focused conference? And for me, it's, this is ridiculous that in all the 30 years I've been in Japan, you really see the same old stereotypes that women just aren't good enough. Yeah. Women can't do it. And I want to do a conference where we just highlight all these amazing women in Japan who are doing it. Absolutely. And who are leaders, and is so inspiring and going to give us great insights into their industries. And that's the biggest reason for me.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it as well. And particularly sort of women working in perhaps startup areas, sort of innovative areas of sustainability, because I think, again, there's a tendency for that to be maybe more male dominated. So it's, we really want to find great examples of that and highlight that, and to show for other people, for other women considering it, here's some ideas, here's the kind of thing you can do, and to show what's possible, I think.
And we have organizations that hopefully will collaborate with us and support us in getting this event together, like Few Japan. Speak Her is another one.
Yes.
There's I know that Melanie Brock is always posting about the manals in Japan, that all the,
Yep.
and then in politics, usually, like the recent political party, you see one woman out of all of them in the picture. And we just want to be putting more women in the forefront and having a great event with lots of great energy, and have that you can do it confidence after you join this event, right?
I think
That's
so.
the
That's a
aim.
big part of it, right? That confidence building that we can do this. This is an option for us.
Yeah. So that is our 30 minutes. Let me just give a plug to my event, which I am modeling on our March event. I am trying to start doing these monthly events, which I think is kind of a mini version of what we might see in the March event. So in Hiroshima, December 10th, but also online. So we're going to have 2 great short speakers. We're going to have vegan food on reusable plates. We're going to have a free cycle area where you bring a gift that is in really good condition, but it just doesn't suit you. And we're going to trade it around as like a holiday spirit thing. We're going to have a zero waste shop. We're going to try out a lot of these things, which I think people feel is so hard about sustainability. But we're going to have fun with it, and we're going to show how it's possible. And these are the kinds of things that I hope we can also include in the March event.
Sounds fantastic, and really pleased to, excited to see how that goes. So good luck.
Yeah, awesome. And it is based in-person event on December 10th, Friday from 6 to 9. But I really want to get people online to join. So if you're interested in joining online, please drop me a DM today and I'll give you a special discount code. You can join for 1,000 yen only. So reach out today. And we're going to try to do these talks every week, right, Tove?
Yep, that's the plan.
Awesome. So catch us next week and we'll have more things that have been on our radar in the news, events, and other things, which hopefully you didn't know about yet, and will inspire you in your seeking sustainability in your life and work, right?
Brilliant. Yep. Sounds good.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Tove.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.